How are we doing? How are we doing on this terrific Tuesday? Another great day of manifestation of being alive and being in the possibilities of growth. This is Dr. Gregory Clarke Sr., and welcome to the Comeback Conversations with Dr. Clarke as we are continuing on the Dynasty Path for this particular year. Yes, we are. This is not a 1 week situation, not a 7 week situation. Now, this is an overview of what we're going to be dealing with over the course of this whole calendar year. And I appreciate all the feedback, perspectives, and things of that nature that help shift certain things and to bring certain things to bear. So, tonight we're going to be in a great teaching that we'll jump into very vehemently and powerfully. So, without further ado, let me acknowledge our young lady from Florida, none other than Miss Carol McIntyre. How are you this evening?
I am great and great. How are you? I'm glad to be here.
Amen. We're glad to have you. Was the music a decent vibe to get you?
Absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay. I feel good. You like the music? Good. That was a good vibe. Just to say that we don't just jump into stuff. It was a nice vibe.
Yes, very
Just
nice.
excellent. Appreciate you being here. Amen. Next up, our brother Antonio Jackson from the middle of the country. What is going on with Mr. Antonio Jackson?
Just glad to be here for another conversation and just, growing in my learning. I always want to learn something new. So,
Amen. Amen. Well, we appreciate you being here and thank you for joining us once again.
thank
And
you.
without further ado, let us go to my BX sister, none other than Miss Nicole Johnson. How are you doing down there in the boogie now?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. Can't complain. Blessed and highly favored. Every day above ground is a great one.
Amen to that.
Amen to that. And thank you for once again joining us. And without further ado, let us go to my partner in life. And I wasn't going to say crime, but we don't do no crime. We just do life. We just doing life. None other than Dr. Cheryl Clarke.
Blessings, my love, and everyone else here. Blessings. I can't wait for you to jump in to tonight's teaching. Blessings.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we will for that's right. We're not gonna belabor long. We're not gonna take too long. Let's make sure. Yeah, optimize. That's right. We got optimize. So we all good. We all good. Let's see. Let's see. I always ask our reticent reporter, Miss Nicole Johnson, can we see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Excellent, excellent. So tonight we're dealing with structures. Instead of last week, we was initially said, oh, it's only going to be a couple of weeks, and then we started to recognize, some of this information is widely needed, and so we're going to break it down. So, as we heard from last week's conversation, this week we're dealing with structures, and we know that from as being people of faith, we must have order established in our life. If we don't have a particular order, we may have the greatest ideas, we may get the greatest possibilities, we may even have the greatest product or service, but if there's no order to it, or there's no establishment and structure, then it's not going to be beneficial for you in the long term. So we're going to deal with structures on this week, and then next week we'll deal with subsequent stuff as we got insurance coming up and other different factors, and giving them all their opportunity to get that air of exposure. So this week is order before abundance, and it should have been IN. So don't mind my bad English right there, but an ontological foundation for financial stewardship and family governance with biblical principles. And of course, the teaching is by me, and I always give credit to Ms. Johnson because she was the one who gave me some of the information that stimulated me going back to what I did in my dissertation upon, which was financial literacy. Without further ado, I will ask Ms. Johnson if she can read this slide for us, please.
Yes, I can. Why structure is a comeback issue. The opening truth. Many people don't need more money. They need order. They need clarity. They need governance over what they already possess. That first line made me nervous. The
Mm.
comeback insight. This is the pivotal stage where chaos begins to turn into continuity, where disorder transforms into divine design, where confusion gives way to the clarity God intends for his people. You don't lose wealth first, you lose structure first.
Thank you for that. And the reason why I can see why, and even I would, my eyeballs would roll up in my head if I see that first sentence that many people don't need more money. Of course, we should have the desire for more. God has put that within us. The universe has established that within us. So there's nothing wrong with the pursuit of going more. But as we have learned from individuals who have either gotten money too quickly or some who have hit the lottery, and all of a sudden they get into this realm of having access to wealth. But since they didn't have the necessary order and structure, that wealth was fleeting. So it's almost like going back to what Solomon did before he lost his mind chasing tail. And yes, I'm going biblical with it. When God presented a possibility to Solomon, Solomon could ask for more money. He could say, yo, just give me all the women in the world, which ended up being his downfall, but that's another teacher for another day. Or what he asked for. He said, God, just give me the wisdom to be able to take what I've learned from my father David, even though he wasn't perfect, but allow me the opportunity to lead your people effectively. And when God heard that response, and we're not going to go all Old Testament here, but when God heard that response, he says, look, all the other stuff that I know probably somewhere in your heart's desire that you would like, you won't get that. You won't get that and then some. Why? Because you asked for the correct thing. You asked for wisdom. You asked for order. You asked for the necessary structures. How am I take care of your people? See, we can all get money. See, money to me is the easiest thing for all of us to get. We can all figure out ways and create atmospheres where we can attract money to ourselves. Now, how do we keep it and then send it back out so it can come back even more pregnant? That's where people have necessary structures. That's where people who move in affluent ways are not just rich. There's a big difference between rich, wealthy, and affluent. See, rich people got to show their wealth. Sometimes they got to be too flashy. Sometimes you got to see the chains and this, that, and the third. And after a while, as they get older, I can even look at the metamorphosis of a Jay-Z. Jay-Z went from the stage of being that rapper who was part of the culture. You had the big chains and this and big that and oversized this and oversized that. But as he started to get around the right people, as he started getting around the right structures, as he started getting around the right conversations, his look started changing. And those people who were used to him saying, okay, you need to keep looking like you in the hood. He says, nah, that doesn't work. Why would I go out and spend money on a chain or, on another car when I can take that money and probably invest in a business or buy a home or buy something that can amplify what I'm doing and give me some real residual income on top of the stuff that I created? And so there are times where people say, just give me more money, give me more money. Is that individual who's looking for money instead of being taught how to make money? And that's why structure is so important from an ontological space. Because if we're not well structured, if we're not well refined, if we're not around the right people and the right conversations, and I thank God for my wife for bringing this to my attention. If you're not generating a space where you're around the right conversations, money is going to come to you. Especially if you're educated and you have the right product, right space, and you're promoting yourself and marketing yourself properly, the money's going to come. How can you hold on to it? Do you have the structure to hold on to it? So that's why the overarching thought is about you don't lose wealth first, you lose structure first. Because when you hear people say, oh, I had $100 million and I lost it all. So, they didn't really lose it all. Because technically, if they have the wisdom, just because they lost 100 million doesn't mean that they can't get it back. They can get it back. But if they're going to still have the same structures in place or a lack of structure in place, then there's a high probability, it's not about getting more money. It's about how do you work what you have, and next you get more added unto you. Any thoughts before we go on to the next slide? Anything that's coming up for anyone as we're going to before we go to the next slide? Because remember, this is a dialogue. It's not a monologue, even though it's a teaching, but it's about getting, you bring your ebb and flow into it so we can recognize why structure is so important.
Dr. Clarke, Carol.
Please.
Yeah, as you were talking, I just reflected on the whole idea of order or structure, how it creates freedom.
Mm.
If things are aligned, it create, first of all, you gain so much time.
Mm-hmm.
And even for children, this is why we teach children so early routines, because in that routine, you're building the structure. They know what's predictable, and they could go but this far or this wide, but it creates that framework for them to grow and to develop. But just in general, what's just really coming out as you were speaking for me was just that order or that structure really, really gives you the freedom that you need in life. And I'm complete.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. That's so true. That's why, regardless of whatever we desire in life, because we should never go through life wanting. Because as we can break down the scripture, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. There's too many times we go through life looking for things that I want to do this and I want to do that. No, God has already told you that it is something that you're not supposed to be wanting. Now, God will we're going to come to you, Mr. Jackson, but there should be a space and time where you start to recognize that you have the right to your desires. You even have the right to your pursuits. But are you, as you're doing these necessary things that have come upon you or have been generated from your subconscious state and now you're out picturing, do you have the necessary structure to hold it? Are you moving in the right principles so that what it is that you're developing is becoming an opportunity to be much more apparent and much more powerful in your respective space? That's why structure, excuse me, structure has to be first. So go ahead, Mr. Jackson. The floor is yours.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Clarke. As you were talking, I started to see California, and I was thinking about the rain, how, they get abundance of rain every year, but they don't keep it, they don't hold it. And so then they end up having, drought issues, things like that. So when it rains, the water just, washes out to the sea or floods, different things, mudslides and things like that. So when you were talking about structure, I was like, well, they don't have a structure in place. So I'm like, the rain may be coming on me and I may have, these flows of money coming in, but do I have the structures in place to hold it? Do I have the right, whether it's the right vehicle to, the right, protocol in place to really hold on to the wealth that's coming? So I'm complete on that.
Oh, that's good. That's good. We all need reservoirs. Think of the necessary buckets as Mr. Jackson was alluding to. Do you have the necessary reservoirs, which shows that your infrastructure, that means your inner workings, your inner possibilities, those things that when you capture those thoughts, so God gives you that errant thought that you think it's errant, but all of a sudden you document it. And by you documenting, you captured it. And that's a structure. Then as you captured it, you start to implement it. Okay, now you're creating a plan. Now, as you're planning now you're figuring out how to move it into the marketplace. And as you start to now put all the necessary pieces in place, those are all necessary pieces of structure. So money is not just presented to us from a space of just saying, I'm a good person, money's going to come to me. No. Even the unjust steward, Jesus blessed him. Why? Because he had a sense and sensibility of knowing even God's pattern when it comes to, wealth creation. And I mean, we can go through, especially during the First Testament, which some of us call the Torah or the Old Testament. You see so many opportunities have God always talked about. I desire above all things that my people are prosperous. And if we look at the New Testament, we can just go to 3 John 1 and 2. When John was talking with Gaius and having the conversation, above all things, I hope that not only are you prosperous in things, but I hope that your soul prospers. So prosperity is not a sin. Well, sometimes when people get caught up in thinking that, I be talking about money. It's not that we're talking about it. We should talk about money. Talking about money shows that we don't have a love of money. Money's not our overrider, but it's okay to have those conversations. What are you vested in? How's your stuff appreciating over here? What's going on here? Have you taken care of this debt over here? Are you working through some of these other possibilities and probabilities over here? Or are we going to stay in a box which God never positioned us in and say that, I'm just going to be a good little person and not allow myself the possibility of what happens if I do move towards the more? And it's okay. We have to remember that. We have to recognize that. So we're ready to move on to the next slide. I'm going to ask Dr. Cheryl Clarke if she is available to read this slide for me, please.
Okay, abundance amplifies whatever it enters. If there's confusion, abundance multiplies confusion, creating greater chaos and deeper division among families and communities. If there's order, abundance multiplies peace, creating generational blessing, sustainable impact that honors God. God brought order to creation before bringing fruitfulness. He separated light from darkness, water from land, establishing divine structure as a foundation for blessing. Key truth: increase is not the reward. Order is the prerequisite for receiving the stewarding abundance.
Now, this is the reason why we have to be very mindful of God, send me abundance, send me abundance, send me abundance, send me abundance. Give me all the money. I want all the money, and all this other stuff. We can go through all that rigmarole. But depending upon how you have established yourself, and as they would say, your modus operandi, that means your mode of operation, the way that you move in your life, God will send the abundance. But first thing it's going to do is going to look and see, okay, how are you moving? If you're moving in chaotic spaces and you're haphazard and the sky's falling, it's always everything's so anxious. Of course. Okay, you ask for the abundance in that. It's going to get amplified. And it's not the devil. It's not otherness. It is what you ask for. And sometimes when we know that, as it's been established even in the good book, that the devil was a lie from the beginning. The devil has no power. The devil has no power. So that means there are times that we make requisite choices in our respective lives that sometimes may not work, and we're so quick to say, that enemy's against me. So what enemy? You're talking about an enemy outside of you based upon your choices? Or you're going to put it on some sort of power that's outside of you? Oh, okay. So it's not your responsibility. It's all these things happening around you. It's not you. You didn't make the choice in that particular endeavor, and this produced a result. Coming to you, Dr. Cheryl Clarke. And so at the same time, when we see that when we move in the abundance and we're moving in the strategic possibilities that the Most High has given us, we start to see that abundance can multiply your peace. Not saying that war may not come to your doorstep, but if it multiplies your peace, you have the ability to still be able to navigate situations where it could be recessionary. You can be able to navigate those situations and don't lose your mind because prices are getting a little higher. Okay. That means your prices need to go up. I know under the sound of during this time that we are taping this particular episode, here in the New York City area, there's nurses who are fighting for a better life. And they made a decision. And they became galvanized as a community, and they decided, wait a minute, we deserve some of the pieces of the abundance that we see that's happening. These hospitals can spend, all this money on expansion and building this and building that and adding to this and adding to that, and all this accumulation is like, we're part of the backbone of taking care of the clients that are allowing you to do this. So don't forget about us. But it's organized. It'd have been something if it was chaotic and it was crazy and no, it's very organized. And that's where you see where even in situations where there may be a disagreement or a conflict, that abundance and order can still reside. And I'll open the floor up to Dr. Cheryl.
Yeah, I just want to say abundance is not always taught and it's not automatic for people. So I think that it needs a little grace for people. This is why structure is important for people to understand that all they lived sometimes in chaos.
Mm.
So I think a good caveat here is to give people grace in this season for coming to your platform because they don't know what you don't know until you know. So I've lived in a situation before I met Dr. Clarke. He was raised in a household where he was afforded the opportunity to see, and he's been taught by, young Jewish man that taught him about money at a very early age. But my mother was robbing Peter to pay Paul,
Mm.
and conditioned to do that was very normal for me. So when Dr. Clarke came in my life, and be very transparent, my credit was not great because I went to school back then. There was when I went to college and I was able to get my first credit card, they would be lined up for predatory lending because that's what you call predatory lending, because they would be lined up with credit cards, and I didn't even know what a credit card was when I got my first $1,000, and I would go and buy shoes and socks and matching this and matching that. And this is the thing, abundance is a mindset that requires new habits. And if you're not trained or be in a space of understanding what that looks like, you will always be behind the eight ball. So the structure is important. And I hope that we're going to see a structure here because it's important for us to actually see something in order us to get out of survival mode, because right now people are struggling.
Mhm.
And they're not budgeting, they're bracing themselves. They're in survival mode. And they're not thinking about a year from now. They're thinking about how I'm gonna get to Friday. Some of them
Mm.
are thinking about how to get to Friday. I see these clients out there, they're struggling of how am I going to provide? So we've been perpetually behind the eight ball. It's not unusual for us, but there has to be someone teaching the system and the structure that just because cost of living is rising and you're in survival mode and you live day by day, we can begin to put some structures in place to have us be abundant like God had planned us to. And I'm complete.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. That's why I love the fact that even though this is a teaching, that's the main reason why I love the fact that this is a dialogue and not a monologue, because all perspectives are needed. We need all necessary parts. There's no one part that's lacking or least among us. And when we get an opportunity to have a well-rounded conversation, it doesn't become very elitist. It becomes a space where we have the ability to learn from each other. And sometimes, yeah, we do need to have a little empathy. It's not about rah, 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 rah. But one of the things I do understand is that we all have the possibility of having a foundation. And sometimes we get that foundation earlier, sometimes we may get it a little later. But once we become responsible or aware of the foundation, then it is up to us. That's when we become responsible for what we know. We're going to move on to the next slide. I'll read this one. Why structure matters. Money without structure leaks. Financial resources flow through the cracks of disorganization, leaving families wondering where the blessing went. Love without order creates conflict. The deepest affection can breed the deepest wounds when boundaries and expectations remain undefined. Legacy requires rules, not emotions. Lasting inheritance is built on clear governance, not good intentions or strong feelings. Structure turns money from a weapon into a tool. It transforms potential destruction into purposeful stewardship. And as you can see, as I put that image to the left, it's about showing the fact that, at times we don't think that faith and money go together, but they do. They do in some aspects. Because if you have faith in the gifts and talents that the Most High has put within your hands or put within your thought patterns and things that you've developed and worked on and become astute in, then you can be able to go out in the marketplace to be able to get some resources. And then some of that you come back and if you bless your houses or worship appropriately, you do that. You take care of your responsibilities appropriately. So there is a structure, there is a pattern that is established. And as Dr. Cheryl Clarke was alluding to, even though she was exposed to something that may not have been workable, it was still beneficial for her to view because then as she was presented another possibility. Now it's not making what she went through wrong. It's just recognizing, oh, this is what you were exposed to. So since you was exposed to that, now what happens if I expose you to this? Because every family dynamic, especially legacy wealth building family, there had to be someone who didn't have two nickels to rub together. You're not gonna act like that everyone started off with a good old silver spoon or a head start. But when you start to recognize, like, wait a minute, did we build this thing up? Did we create a possibility? Did we create a legacy here? And now when those things happen or occur, then it is up to us to be like, wait a minute. And I thank Dr. Cheryl Clarke because she has sent me a billionaire who had a thought in regards to how he has conversations with his family and how the necessary stewardship is to be, you have to know what's going on. It's not about the elders saying, okay, we as elders know what's going on, and you as young people, y'all just sit around and just watch. No. Because eventually, if I'm ready to pass the baton to you and I haven't prepared you, that was just as bad as me not saying nothing to you at all. Because then you have access to it, but then you don't have respect for it. You don't have respect for it. Now it becomes something that you might become spoiled. You might become in a necessary space to feel entitled. And that's not structure, because now what's going to end up happening is when those elders move off the scene, it means everything that you built may start to disappear. So we have to be very mindful that money is a tool. We don't love money here. We'll never love money. Money is something that I control. Money doesn't control me. And when you move in that vibration, that's when you start to see that, wait a minute, okay, since money is a tool, how do I utilize it? Am I philanthropic with it? Am I utilizing it to take care of my responsibilities? Am I sending it out so I can come back even more pregnant with more money so I can have even more to be a blessing to others with? Or at the same time, more to invest and probably expand what it is that we're building as a legacy? Am I taking care or removing those necessary unwanted debts that don't benefit me? There is a difference between good debt and bad debt. And so when we start to stay relatively established and seeing the necessary structures, and even in the picture, it talks about budgeting and savings, times investing. you need all these different pots. I know Dr. Cheryl loves to talk about one of her favorite scriptures, the widow woman in Zarephath. We go to Second Kings. And when you think about that, even when the prophet came to her and said, go borrow pots and do not borrow a few, he was giving her the opportunity. Says, wait a minute. Here, I'm giving you an opportunity to create some structure. And that woman ended up having an oil business. But initially, she was going to make the last bit of meal that she had, and she's going to make a cake so her and her children can eat that cake and die. And see, that would have been that was moving towards a space of destruction based upon what was going on, as Dr. Cheryl alluded to. What's going on right now? People are in survival mode. I know today at the day of taping, because I watch CNBC a lot and be abreast of what's going on in business, it's talking about the CPI numbers and things of that nature. And inflation is still there, but it's kind of leveling off. But it's still high. When you look at when it comes to prices for electricity and home heating and stuff like that, we're in the winter months. That's part of economics. Sometimes those prices do get a little higher, and you're like sitting there looking at your bill like, yo, what's going on here? But then those who have structured themselves and prepared for those opportunities, knowing that winter is coming. So we know that winter is coming. We already know what the game is going to be played. It can't be a shock to us every winter when certain prices go up because we have to heat our homes. You can't walk around our homes in fur coats. And then that starts to say, do you have a lack of structure or a lack of planning? So as I'm showing you these three respective parts dealing with money, love, and legacy on this respective slide, because we all have some level and possibility in all three aspects. Regardless of if you're in a relationship with someone or not in a relationship with someone. Even if you're a single mother out there, you're still dealing with legacy, you're still dealing with love, still dealing with money. If you're in a committed relationship, you're definitely dealing with all three and having those respective and necessary conversations so that we know what's going on as a structure of a family. So there's no assumptions and nothing to point the finger at each other. Says, well, you should have been doing this, shouldn't be doing that. No, we should be talking and being more in conversation so we understand what the structure that we have, or the structures, plural, so we know what's working and what can be in the space to keep us beneficial. Any thoughts before I move on to the next slide? Excellent.
This is Nicole. I have a quick question. Not for myself, but for, I guess for my understanding as well. For people who are like at ground zero and understanding what the structure is, what it even looks like, what's step one? Is it just sitting and going over your bills? Is it reading a book on finance? Is it talking to somebody? Like, what's the first step someone should do if they're even trying to figure out what structure fits their family and fits their life?
I would say the very first thing, everything starts internally. Everything starts within that individual. The same way that I was raised in a particular way, Dr. Cheryl Clarke wasn't raised that way. And even though I had access to two parents, they only can give me so much. So what ended up happening is, for me, and I'll say it from my own perspective. What happened for me was, being a young man and, desire to have, some access of food in the household. I was back in the day when you can go to your local supermarket and pack some bags or help people with their groceries home. And one day, as the people in the good old A&P, which is no longer in existence, would allow us to pack bags like after school or little things here and there, an older Jewish man who was one of the stock managers noticed how I was purchasing stuff. And he pulled me under his wing. See, I had to accept the fact of, am I open to be taught? because that's one of the things when it comes to wise stewardship. Everyone who stewards over something had to be a follower. And sometimes, especially in this respective space and time, we have too many individuals that do not desire to be led. They desire to lead without knowing how to follow or knowing how to learn. So I would say the necessary structure within any individual who's creating a structure for themselves is like if they feel like they're in survival mode, okay, how do I one of the first things I would say is let me look at what's going on and how can I fix it or how can I grow it? How can I augment it? What are the willing conversations am I willing to have? Because after a while, we can't even claim ignorance of not knowing. Because even individuals who go out and if they can work on a farm or do certain things as day laborers, that means they understand commerce enough to say, wait a minute, I need to go out here and work so I can make something because I either need a place to lay my head, needs a place where I can maybe cook a meal. And if I can't afford it, who can I partner up with so that we can all share this maybe one space or one bed or whatever the case may be. And it may seem outrageous, but actually it's not. That shows a level of stewardship and structure. Like, wait a minute, you can't go out there on your own and you can't go on your own. But if we come together, all of a sudden we can do something. So for me, that elder Jewish man who took me under the wing and saw me purchasing certain things and started showing me about unit pricing and even started showing me, certain things go on sale this day and certain things go on sale that time. And sometimes, how to manage money, how to be a wise steward over money. And that started happening for me when I was like 7, 8 years old. So, and I know Dr. Cheryl may not have that same storyline or access, but then as we came together as a couple, if I wasn't willing to share that information with her, like, oh, she's just going to do what she wants. No, wait a minute. If I do care about her, and especially if I'm thinking about changing her name, okay, the stuff that I know I need to share. Just the same way there's certain things that she has taught me. So that ebb and flow of willing to share information, especially from a Black and brown perspective, systemically, they love to position us that, if I knew about something, I'm gonna keep it to myself. I'm gonna keep it to a select few. And that's one of the main reasons why about this platform is that no, it's not about that. It's about generating conversations to make sure that we are abreast of what's happening.
Dr. Clarke,
Go ahead.
I sent you something that you may want to take a glance at individually. So I know that's the first thing that you said, because I know people minds the way Nicole just framed it, they work in bullet points. So that will probably support you with that as well. But the first thing that you did for me, I put it in the chat for Zoom. And the first thing I know that you did for me is you made me look at my money. You actually made me look at it. You got to first start with what are you spending your money on, Cheryl? Like, I think the first thing is that you got to say, like, what are you spending money on? Like, what are you doing? Like, let's stop. Let's don't do the pay now, buy later. Like, what are those things? So I think the first thing that you taught me how to do was like, where is your money leaking out? Like, what is that? So I just sent you that because it's just a reminder of, some of the things that, you taught me growing up. Like, I'm saying
Well,
growing
can
up.
you read it? Because it seems like I'm having an issue getting the chat up. So read what you see
Uh,
to the chat.
I'm gonna send it to you because I think it would be a pleasure for you to, wait a minute. So you can't see my chat?
No, right? Just
I
you
can't
just
see it either.
yeah.
Well, I didn't put it in. I wanted his permission first before I put that whole thing in there.
Oh no, paraphrase it, paraphrase it. No.
Okay, so
Oh,
the
this is
first,
this is part of the dialogue. Please paraphrase.
okay, so I'm just gonna put it in there. Um, it's a whole thing. The first thing is stop the leak first. So the first thing you got to do is stop the leak. So I'm going to put it in there, Karen. The first thing you're going to do is stop the leak. Where you're leaking at, where you're leaking your money at, and you're going to wealth structure like a house. It's like building a house. So I remember when Dr. Clarke talked about that. So I'm going to put it in the chat for everyone since I got Dr. Clarke's permission. The first thing is stop the leak. So like today we could just do with that one. Look at before you could save money, before you could stop money. I remember Dr. Clarke said, he was like, Cheryl, we need to look at your credit score. So he pulled my credit score. He pulled where I had the everything at. That was the first thing. He probably don't remember he did this for me, but
Mm.
he pulled that. And what you don't want to do is you want to see how much are you spending each month on subscriptions? How much are you spending on things that you don't no longer utilize? The buy now, pay later type of thing. And that's big now because people are not having any money. So now they're putting it on layaway. My mother was a layaway queen. As with Clark, he was like, Cheryl, if you don't have the money for it or save the money for it, then you're not going to get it. I'm like, why not? Layaway is right there. What's the matter with layaway? Save your money and you go ahead and then you pay for it when you got a chance. And so he was showing me that you will have more
Buying
I
power.
guess pardon me?
Buying power.
Yeah. And so that's the first one it says. So I can put others in there, but I think the first one is good.